Hi, IUP. I'm Megan. I'm a junior fashion merchandising and journalism and PR major.
I'm Michelle. I'm a sophomore journalism major at IUP.
And I'm Dr. Eric Lauber. I'm actually a professor at IUP. I teach currently in the journalism department.
Hey, IUP. We know you're struggling out there. We're your IUP survival guide. Tune into us regularly for some tips, some stories, and maybe a little bit of fun. Okay, so Michelle, I thought you had something you really wanted to talk about, so I'm going to give you the floor.
Awesome. So, our first topic has to be about the schools closing. We're IUP students and we can no longer be on campus. So, we can talk about it. Obviously, since the COVID-19 outbreak happened, we can't go back to campus right now. It sucks, but I understand why universities and schools have to do it. It's not just us, it's everyone, every school. So I guess my biggest question is, how is this going to affect us as students? So I think the biggest problem is probably housing, I think, because so many people had planned on living on campus for the remainder of the semester, and now we're all kicked out. I mean, I live in Indiana, so it's not changing for me. Do you live in dorms, Megan?
No, I live directly off campus, but I know a lot of people who live in the dorms, and I remember a few weeks ago it was such a process for them when when the university emailed them and was like, "You have a week to get out all of your stuff." Some people
Yeah.
like, "I don't have a car. My parents have full-time jobs all week." Like they're like, "I can't get up there." But luckily, most of them did, and the university has been really working with a lot of the students who either can't leave for certain reasons or who have to stay on campus or who couldn't come up and get their stuff right away. So,
Yeah,
Yeah, it was just chaotic.
there's a couple of dozen students that are still on campus because of extenuating circumstances, and I think they haven't moved them all into one dorm at the moment. I believe it might be Reddick, and so there's a limited staff on campus taking care of them as residents, life staff. But really, almost all of them are all shut down right now. Nobody's in there.
I keep thinking about the international students, wondering what happened with them and if they had to like try and figure out a way to get home.
Uh, a lot of them are actually the people I'm referring to that are still on campus. So,
That's what I figured.
but so when you live off campus, did you get your money back? Because I know that the dorms are sending the money back.
well, I wish because I'm not there, but since we pay for the semesters and since we weren't told we had to leave our apartments, we could be living there right now. I know a lot of my friends are still at IUP living in their apartments because they either have a pet that they had there and they didn't want to bring home and they just stayed all of spring break, and then all of this stuff happened and they were just stayed there. All their stuff is there. A lot of them find it easier too to be there away from their families when they're doing their work. It's hard if you're in a small house with a decent amount of people to be doing your work and have other voices coming in. You're trying to Zoom. So, no, I have not heard of anybody getting their money back for living off campus, but it kind of stinks, but I kind of wish I got my money back.
Well,
I think it's because off-campus housing is more like an apartment, like you pay for it rent-wise, kind of. So I think because you use maybe like your refund for it, it's not the same thing as living in a dorm. So they're not going to give you your money back because it's like a renter.
and the university, we're going to put a website up where people can go if they have any questions about university policies and how they're responding to a variety of things. So go to that website there, and that'll answer any questions you have about housing or other situations that might occur. Um, so you guys are living off campus. So how's life during the COVID-19? Got any stories to tell?
Uh, I don't know. Nothing too crazy. It's not like we can go outside and do anything.
Yeah, you're still working, right, Michelle? So that doesn't change your schedule too much.
No.
I know you guys are still taking classes. Megan, how's it been for you? You're back home, right?
Yeah, it's been a little chaotic. Um, it's been fine. I've been mostly inside, but I'm with my family, so it kind of feels like it's the summer and I've just came back and the semester's over, and then I keep forgetting that I have classes.
That's exactly what it feels like. It feels
It
like
feels like it's
summer.
the summer and I shouldn't be having classes, but we're all okay here. My brother's a little bit upset. He's a senior in high school, so he's missing out on his
Oh,
prom, his graduation, all of the
that's
like
terrible.
great end of the senior year stuff.
That's awful. I guess, I don't know. My second question would have to be about student jobs and things like that, because to uproot your life like that, that's what it feels like doing. Like we're uprooting our lives because we thought we were going to be living in Indiana. I mean, like most students don't live in Indiana and then they have to leave. So, what about jobs they had? I know a lot of people get part time jobs around Indiana and have student jobs and things like that. I know we still have our student job, but I mean, that can't be the case for most.
I think it's been a mixture of things. I think there's a few students still getting paid. Uh, I believe if you're on federal or state work study, they're working some system out where they can still send you some money. Obviously, if you worked off campus, it's a mix. Some still have their jobs, some don't. Regrettably, a lot of grown-ups are losing their jobs right now and being laid off.
Yeah,
It's a little harder to bring in a college student when you're trying to support maybe a man or a woman who has a family and you're trying to get them paid first before you worry about the college student. But it's all over the state, and we're not unique. I tell you what, Indiana misses you guys though. Town
it's
is
dead here. It's dead. It's
all
crazy.
everybody's missing that influx of students who spend money basically
Yeah,
and work the jobs.
It
Make
sucks
yeah.
for small businesses.
Yeah, small business is going to very much struggle through this. We're hoping that the federal stimulus money will help out whoever needs it. But if you guys stayed in touch at all with your other classmates, or you hear anything going on with them?
Not really, no. It's so much easier to do online classes that you don't have to, like, you can't ask your neighbor what's going on or strike up conversation with the person next to you in class. It's so hard to keep those connections. It really is. Because now we have the internet right in front of us constantly. So, like, we don't really have questions to ask. And
Yeah, luckily for me, a lot of my classes are all of my classes are with people who I've had classes with before. So at least in almost actually in every one of my classes, I have at least one or two people who, while the class is happening on Zoom, I can text and be like, "Did you understand that? Like, can you explain it to me?" Because they're also on Zoom. So luckily for me, I've made connections that I just reached out to them while the class is happening. I'm like, "Hey, haven't seen you in a while, but can you help?" And luckily, a lot of my friends back from school who I may not hang out with outside of class are still very willing to help because they're doing the same thing and going through the same struggle.
yeah,
I think it's a great piece of advice that people might just have to reach out. Like you know the names of somebody, but you're not really close to them. But maybe it's a time to just reach out and say, "Hey, I know you're in class with me, and we just connect." Um,
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. It may feel a little awkward. I know I felt a little awkward reaching out to this one girl who I did have her number, but we barely talked. I've seen her out and about and waved to her, but we're not really friends. I reached out and I said, "Hey, I'm doing this assignment. I know you have to do it too. Do you have any advice? I'm a little confused on this part. I don't understand the wording." And she was so nice and so helpful. And now we just text during the class and stuff if something happens and we're both confused.
I feel like my my friend circle is gonna struggle after we get back because we have to go through the whole semester and the summer. And I like I feel like I'm just not gonna be making friends for a long time.
you have to go through the semester in the summer. What do you mean by that?
Well, the rest of the semester and then summer before I see anybody from IUP.
Before you see anybody? Yeah, I agree. But I think I think it's a phenomena that we're all going to basically try to stay in touch since we know we're all isolated like that. And
Yeah.
we're all going to have to reach out with technology, including social media and things like Instagram and stuff. So I'm not on there. You've seen people on Instagram or anything else?
Oh, 100%. I've noticed, especially with me too, I get these little reports on my phone, screen time reports, and I am embarrassed at how much it says I am on social media all day. And it's not just me, I can tell because so many people, all of the trends that are happening on social media, so many people doing all these cool challenges and all these neat things that have just never happened before because everybody is isolated, they're bored, so they're sending things to their friends like, hey, do this with me, hey, do that, through social media.
Yeah.
What
I've seen so many different trends just appearing. I know everybody has probably seen, who's on social media, who's a college student, has seen the until tomorrow trend, which is dead now. But I remember I woke up and I was like, my boyfriend texted me and he just said until tomorrow, and I was like, what? And then I go on Instagram and I start scrolling in every single picture until tomorrow. And I was like, what is this? And
Yeah, I looked it
funny.
up online. I didn't know what it was. I was like, why is everybody doing this? So I had to look it up online.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was either. And then I just like caught on after like 30 minutes of scrolling. I caught on to the fact that it was like you post it for 24 hours. It's a funny, embarrassing picture.
Hmm.
And then it just died after 24 hours. It was crazy. I was like,
It
I've
literally
never
happened in
seen
a
this
day.
before. It's in one day. I was like, I've never seen this before.
It's weird.
I've seen so many TikToks, so many funny ones, especially this one that I loved. I've watched it like 30 times, of this kid who turned 21 in quarantine, which is really upsetting. I had a friend who turned 21 in quarantine. She didn't really have anything to do. She was stuck inside with her family. All she wanted to do was go hang out with her friends, but she couldn't. But this kid, his parents threw him a little party, I'll call it, and they set it up in their shed and they strung up lights and a disco ball. And it started with the dad outside of the shed. He was dressed in all black and sunglasses. He had a walkie talkie and he was like, okay, give me your ID. And the kid gives him his ID and they're pretending that he's the bouncer. And then he lets him into the club and it's his mom at the bar. She's serving little like orange juice shots and apple juice. And it was
Oh
just
my
so
God.
funny and I loved it. And it was just so many people are getting so creative. And it's I feel like this time stuck inside, everybody's creative juices are just flowing and it's great.
It's because you have nothing to do, so you have to sit inside and think of. I've painted so many paintings since I've been inside, and I had not had the time before to paint in a long time. So I've,
Yeah.
did you tell me, Michelle, you could eat off your shelves now because you've been cleaning a lot?
yeah, I wake up and just clean because I have nothing else to do. And I'm a very like, I have to be like physically doing something or else I get like antsy. So like I'll just like walk around and clean. I've vacuumed every single day since quarantine happened. It's crazy.
That's a little nuts.
You guys have any favorite hashtags I can put up on the screen that send people to? Or
um there is one. It's hashtag quarantine things. If you look it up or if you put it in Instagram, all these different ideas come up for what you can do during quarantine. Some people are doing showing yoga ideas, arts and crafts. I saw the coolest one of these jeans that this girl painted on one side. They looked so cool, and I was like, I'm saving this to do this while I'm in quarantine. So definitely hashtag quarantine things for sure shows you all this fun stuff.
You know, speaking of like art things, did you see the art department did that like thing where they made those little containers of like crafts and stuff and they had them like over in like spots around campus for people to pick up and like take home and
yeah, yeah.
craft inside. It was interesting. I mean, I didn't do it, but that would be so cool.
That sounds so cute. I would have done that if I was there.
Yeah, but like there's only a few people here, so I guess.
I'll
They
put up.
probably didn't have a lot of supplies either.
No, it's a cool project. I'll put up the link up here on the screen so people can see it. Um, So I think people want to hear if we have any advice. I'll let you guys start on that topic.
For sure. I feel like a lot of people right now are looking for advice about just a lot of different things. I think one of the best things for me throughout this whole thing has been keeping a schedule. I wake up every day at the time that I would usually wake up for school. I do my same routine. I get dressed, I put on my makeup. I just try to do the same things. It keeps me feeling better rather than just feeling not like I have to do school. I feel like if you decide to slack off and act like you don't have to get up and go to class, you're not going to get up. It's a lot easier to just push off doing classwork now instead of you having to go into class. I feel like a lot of people will not log into their Zoom because they're like, it's just online. Whereas they're more of an incentive when you're like, I have to get up. There's people in my class I want to see. I want to talk to this person. I have a question for the professor rather than being like, I can just shoot her an email. I don't have to go to class.
Oh, I know. I have to drive to class every day. So, like, to not have that incentive to where I have to drive to get to my classes makes me like not want to do it. I'm like, oh, it's just online, so like I'll sleep through it. It's it's so hard to get the motivation to actually go online and do it. That's why I never did online classes before because I just know myself and I don't have the motivation to get myself up in the morning without having like other things that make me go to class. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get that.
For teachers too. I've heard some faculty talk about the same thing, but what I reiterate your advice, Megan, is if you get yourself back on your usual routine, you find it much easier to take that little tiny step of now I got to get online. And I have a brother who's a teacher in New York, and the first week they were trying to go online, he was slacking off and he could tell. So now he gets up in the morning, he shaves, he puts his suit on, he puts his everything that he would normally wear, and he sits in front of his computer screen, and he stays on there for almost the same amount of time that he'd be in class. And he zooms his students, and he reaches out to them, and he calls them, and it's so he likes it so much better to have that routine than the kind of the free for all that might occur if you just suddenly move home and you don't really know how to adjust. So that's great
Yeah.
advice.
And like I said earlier, creating stability by talking to the same people that you're used to talking to, whether you have to reach out to them or not, I think whoever it is you reach out to, they would appreciate it. They're probably feeling alone and bored. So by creating stability, by reaching out to your friends, even if you're not as close with them, you're going to want to keep these connections come fall. You're going to want to see them and talk to them. And if you haven't been talking to them, there's less likely a chance that they might think, oh, she doesn't really want to talk to me. And they might be shy. They might not want to reach out to like weird you out or something. But in the end, everybody always never regrets reaching out to someone and saying, hey, can you help me with this? Hey, let's talk. I miss you, sort of thing.
Well, you guys are now taking online classes. Is that different? Is it as good?
Hmm.
What
I
do you mean?
like online classes, like regular online classes, because I know they started earlier than these ones because professors had to prepare. But so they started at like the normal time we were supposed to go back to class. Because I know my friends still have online classes, and I think it's pretty much the same thing. I don't think it's changed.
So what about the new classes though, the ones that have just jumped over to online? Any
A
thoughts?
lot of professors are doing it completely differently. Like I know some are doing the Zoom thing, some, thank God, are doing it to where like you they have all the stuff on D2L and you can do it whenever you want. And you could do like all your quizzes and stuff whenever you want and watch the lectures whenever you want. So it's like a no deadline type of course and you just have to get it done before, the semester's over.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my teachers have either, it was weird. It's kind of been like, I've been calling it like opposites, where if it's my professors who I used to have in class who gave a ton of work have now cut down completely. And it's like one assignment every week. You have to watch a lecture and do an assignment. That's so easy for me. Whereas some of my easier classes, it's like I have to sit for 3 to 4 hours a day and just work on them. I don't know. It's just been so opposite for what I'm used to.
That's crazy. Mine are so much more lenient. Like all my classes are pretty much just like do your work when you can. Like that's pretty much how it is. I guess that's why I don't have the motivation to do a lot of things because it's just so much easier.
Yeah, you're lucky. I have one class where like I was so overwhelmed last week. I had to do this journal for this class, and at the end of the journal we have a reflection, and I feel kind of bad because I roasted her. I was just straight up like, look, this is the hardest week of my life. You gave us so much work within 1 week, and
Oh my God.
it was so hard. I was like, I was working so much longer on your classes than all of your class than all of my other classes combined. I was like,
Mm.
I don't think that's how it's supposed to be. I've taken the 3-week online summer classes, and I had less work within a week for the 3-week online summer class than I did for her class. And I told her, I was like, look, you have to not do this week again. Please change it.
You know
Well,
what? I think it's because some teachers actually think that like because you're in quarantine, you have the time to do their work. I think that might be it. They're genuinely like, well, there's the time. So I don't know.
there's a lot of different responses. I've heard faculty say, well, it's, if I give them work, it gives them something to do and distracts them. And it might be better for them to be engaged and to feel like a college student and everything. But every faculty is reacting differently to this. They're all doing it different ways, as you mentioned. We don't have any real strict guidelines other than we have to be in touch with you every week. We have to do our assignments. We have to maintain the quality of what we're teaching, but it's a struggle to maintain the quality. I mean, I know I always used to give in-class exams, and then I would know who's taking the test, but people are home now. I don't know how to verify who's taking it and what they're doing. So I had to switch to open book tests, and that's a different beast for me.
Yeah.
I wish we had open book tests when I was in your class.
Yeah, that's right. So everybody's doing something. Everybody's still charging full tuition too.
Yeah, that was another topic I had. I'm just not sure. I don't, it's definitely a controversial topic because I know that I struggle to do online work. So is it fair to charge the same price when that's not what you paid for? You pay for online classes, you choose to take online classes, and you know what you're paying for. But now it's like, well, I was promised these in class lectures, and now I'm going to an online format. So I don't want to pay for that. Like you're still getting the same amount of credits, like as long as you complete the course. But what if you struggle? That's just my argument. I don't know how I feel about it because I know that like I struggle doing things online and I know that there's a lot of other people out there like that. So it just feels a little unfair to me to charge the same amount for these classes, especially these expensive classes, when you're doing it completely differently than you expected.
I think you got a good point there. What do you think, Megan?
I agree with Michelle at this point. I'm like, I did not sign up for some of this. I signed up to get the experience of the in class. I got signed up to do assignments with other people with a language course. I'm in a language course, and
Ooh,
I benefit so much more from turning to the girl next to me, asking her a question in French rather than having to type a question, and I'm not getting the same experience, the same. I'm not going to learn as much. I can tell you that just from being online.
yeah.
And I wish that it was different, but it's also kind of like the school didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that, but it would just still be nice if we got like maybe like something, some kind of, yeah,
We
I don't know.
discount? I don't know.
Yeah, like a discount just to be like, I'm sorry this happened and here's what we're gonna do to try and make up for it. We understand that it's hard, that type of thing. I understand why they don't, and I completely don't mind, but it would just be like a nice thing.
Well, I think it's a quandary because obviously the college is struggling to financially make it through this.
Yeah.
They've had to come up with millions of dollars in terms of housing refunds
Oh yeah, true.
they didn't expect. And I can't even imagine all the other expenses I mean, they're cleaning everything all the time. There's got to be a lot more expenses involved than they had before. And it's kind of weird. there's other things that you've bought that you don't get a refund on just because we're in the pandemic, like the apartment.
Yeah.
Students all rented apartments. They're not getting a rebate or a discount because they're only there a few days out of an 8-week period. But it's a good argument, guys. I think it's something for the university just to think a little harder about because of the big switch from the learning experience. It was
Hmm.
one thing, and now it's a different thing, and it's forced onto the students. But I don't know. Maybe they'll get some stimulus money from the government, and they can do something with it. Do you have
Because I
any?
know
Go ahead.
there's the transportation costs too. Like those come out of our tuition. So I mean, we're not using it. Shouldn't we get that money back? Because there's a lot of stuff that comes out of your tuition that you just don't see that qualifies benefits from the university.
Oh, you mean the fees? The
Yeah, all those fees and stuff that we get but don't qualify now because we're not on campus.
you can't take advantage of what you're paying for.
Yeah.
Another good point, the fees. I hadn't thought about the fees. With the time we got left, do you have any advice for people trying to study at home?
Yeah, totally. I feel like we have so much advice for people trying to study at home. It's been so much harder, I know for me at least, to try to sit down and study. I still do have tests. I still have finals. Some classes I have no more tests and just a final at the end. Some classes I have a test due tomorrow. So I do still have to sit down and study because I paid for these classes. I don't want to not learn. So I'm trying to still study, even though I know like they're pretty much open book at this point. They're online, but I still want to study. So this pandemic luckily has made studying a lot easier for everyone because you have nothing else to do. You have so much free time. There's fewer distractions unless you have a crazy family. I know I have some friends who have younger siblings, and I have to work on this group project with this one friend, and every 5 minutes his little brother who's 4 years old is running and screaming wanting to play with him, and he's like, I'm sorry buddy, I'm trying to do work. So while there is fewer distractions, like from outside experiences that you could be having, there are some more inside distractions too, depending on where you're living, who your family is. But luckily we don't have to go anywhere, and we don't really have to take as many notes as we did before because, like I said, it's not in class, and you're more physically comfortable. You don't have to be in a chair or in a classroom. If you're feeling sick, luckily you can just take your test at home. You don't have to worry about missing your test. That was something I always struggled with. I got sick a lot during my first 2 years at school, and I would always have to email my professor and be like, I'm so sorry, I have a doctor's note, but I'm not here. When can I make this up? When can I come to your office hours? Luckily, if you're sick now, if you end up with the virus, you can just lay in bed and log on and take your test, which is really nice. And there's a lot of lowered expectations as well. The professors, a lot of them, they all know like it's fine. We know there's a lot of things going on. If you don't get this to us on time, it's okay. We won't dock you points. Just try your best to do everything on time.
Yeah, but there's got to be some things that are harder about this too, right? What do you think, Michelle?
Oh, oh, definitely. You can't meet up with people and study in groups, which I know is probably going to be the hardest thing for me. Like Megan said, she doesn't have that person to talk to in class. And that's probably just going to be the biggest thing for me is trying to go through social media and study with friends that way, kind of, and talk through social media. I guess another thing is technical difficulties because I mean, I know a lot of professors don't necessarily know how to use a lot of stuff like D2L and Zoom and stuff like that. So you never know what could go wrong or
I have so many struggles with technical difficulties, and my professors do too. I have a professor who has never taught an online class in his, I want to say, 50 years of being at IUP. He's having
yeah.
a real struggle. He's admitted that he's having a struggle. And even my professors who have done Zoom classes before, my one I have today, a little later, she emailed us and said, I'm sorry, my volume on Zoom is not working. And I was like, you're so good at Zoom. It's just technical difficulties. So she said we're not
Yeah.
class online today because she can't get Zoom to work.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, that could be, if the professor can't communicate, that kind of like cancels class, kind of, or makes it super hard.
Yeah, it just makes it harder because we only had a week to get things ready. And I feel so bad for professors who had to transform their whole curriculum for the semester into an online format. I mean, I know my one professor took a couple weeks. We haven't had an assignment yet, but he just like recently emailed us and was like, okay, I kind of figured it out. Here's what we're going to do. It was just hilarious.
And I'm finding that I'm miscommunicating more often with students because they're not in front of me and I can't go over things. Can't read their face and go, I better say that again a different way. When I give assignments, I can usually kind of real quickly clear up any miscommunications. But now I'm typing up a lot of that stuff and I'm getting questions from students about, well, what did you mean exactly? It's been harder, I think, because I'm used to teaching in front of students. So I don't know, the body feedback, the nonverbal feedback maybe is a part of what I pick up on a lot, and I'm not getting it now. Um, yeah, I do. Is there people worried about their grades? I guess I should ask.
Oh
I
yeah, absolutely. It's just so hard now because you're so scared about what's going to happen. It's, like I said, especially people who struggle online. I mean, can you imagine what they're feeling right now, thinking that like they're not going to do as well?
Yeah, I'm hoping professors will be able to lenient, knowing like maybe this isn't our best work. Something we submit is not our best work because we don't have the resources of being in class, of being able to ask questions. We can email, but sometimes they don't respond. I was working on a project yesterday and emailed the professor, and she had responded 2 hours before to someone else, and she didn't respond the rest of the day. So I was stuck. I couldn't finish the project because luckily, I still have time to finish it, but she still hasn't responded. I'm just waiting. I can't do anything else because I don't understand the next step. If I was in class, she could either, like Dr. Lauber said, read my face, re-go over it, or I could have asked the question right then and there. So
Yeah,
I definitely have anxiety about like how my grade is going to be affected by the fact that I'm kind of guessing on some things. Luckily, some of my professors have said like homework grades are all going to be 100 as long as you do the work you submitted. If it's not right, it's fine. You just tried. So,
Okay.
yeah, especially not having a lot of those buildings to be in, like the library and like those places to study. I know I study best in a quiet like environment, so I would go to like halls that I know nobody would be in and just sit there and relax. It's so much easier to not be at home to study for me because I feel like I don't have those distractions. It's just the best way for me to study. And I feel like that's how it is for a lot of people.
A lot of what you described, I remember having friends that moved their office home, and a lot of the distractions go like, I got to get up and clean. I got to get the dishes out of the sink. I have to, there's so many things you feel like you can do at home, and it's harder to do the work. It takes a lot of self-discipline to sit in a chair at home hours on end when that's not your normal routine. Your normal routine is to go home, fix dinner or clean or sleep or read a book or watch TV. It's a hard habit to break. I agree 100%. Plus,
Absolutely.
you said some students don't have access to the resources. Like I'm teaching Adobe Premiere. It's been a struggle for me to get students to figure out how to get access to software that they normally would go to the lab for. And clearly they can't check out any cameras, which we used to do every semester. So I have to kind of rely on something else they have access to, probably their phone. It's been a whole different thing here for the next 8 weeks.
Yeah, it's terrible because then the quality of their work it lacks because the resources they don't have. So, I mean,
Yeah.
are you getting as much out of it? That's terrible that you can't get as much out of what you're trying to get from your courses.
for sure, because I was thinking the other day about classes that I've taken that I am 100% positive are you're not getting the same amount out of. I had to take a sewing class where we were in a sewing lab. And I'm
Yeah,
wondering, I have a friend who's in that class now. I haven't reached out to her, but I was wondering, how are you doing this? You have to have, so we made shirts. You have to have a sewing machine. And the final project was you had to sew a tiny little bodice with a zipper on it. And I was like, there's no way they're doing that. There's no way the entire class was us every day in the sewing lab on our sewing machines. And obviously, not everybody has a sewing machine. Not everybody has the same sewing machine, if that. They were all the same. You learned how to work them. So I'm just wondering how this class is even going on, along with art classes for that matter. Certain
I,
classes
Oh yeah.
are going.
how are they doing science labs? I'm hopefully nobody's
I
going
don't
out
know.
cubicles on their own and storing in the basement. So it's all going to be new for us. You know, I did want to say there's some things are actually kind of better. I know it's kind of funny to say that there have been some things that are like, what parts of this are better for you guys than they were before?
Oh, I love not having to get dressed in the morning.
Yeah.
It's my favorite part. I can go to class in my PJs. That's the best part.
It's true. I agree with you on that.
Sometimes if it's like a Zoom class, I'll have a nice top on, but I'm in my PJ bottoms
I do that too all
after
the
here.
time.
It's just PJs because
Yes.
you don't have, nobody's gonna know. They see me, they know. I have a lot of classes where I have to have the camera on. So they see me, but they don't, they're like, oh, she looks so nice today. No, not really.
And no one's judging you either because we're all just there to like get class and leave. But like before, we were also there to socialize. So without that factor,
It's a lot more comfortable.
like,
I'm not worried.
Are you having good food or are you snacking all day? Is it hard to eat? Is it better?
I think it's better just because I like the food I have at home and I love to cook. So I feel like that's my favorite part. I always hated that whenever I would have to drive to campus, I would have to eat on campus. And I wouldn't eat in like the dining halls because I was a commuter and I didn't have like flex or whatever you guys pay for that stuff with.
Housewives.
No
Yeah,
sweat.
so I would go to like Subway. So
Yeah, with me, I did have a meal plan. So I'm assuming I'm getting the money back. I don't read the emails sometimes. They just come in. So I'm sure I'm getting my money back for what I did not spend. But I I'm eating. I had an assignment for my French class where we had to talk about how we're eating because we just learned foods. So I actually just had to talk about this. I'm eating less. So I guess that would be good for most people, but for me, I should be eating more. And at school, I just feel like I was always stopping at Burger Studio or at the Hub. Oh my gosh, I ate the Hub pasta like 5 times a week. I miss it so much, I might start crying. Like the Hub pasta was my life. And I would go to the dining halls between classes with my friends. Even though I lived off campus, I did buy groceries. I made food at home too, but I had a nice balance between it. I definitely ate a lot more. Whether or not I ate better is debatable because I'm still eating junk food here. I think I eat more junk food there, but it's different. It's so different what I'm eating here and what I'm used to eating at school.
Go to the hub. I want all the commuters to know there's parking everywhere.
it's not like we have anything to commute to, so
True, but you can't complain about parking now, as I know a lot of students used to do constantly. Sit
I mean, I guess, but like, I'm not gonna go park my car on campus and sit there.
there.
And
I,
as much as I miss my friends, I'm glad that I have a break from some of them because it's hard when you live in a house with other people. The tensions start getting high.
yeah,
We were all looking forward to a week break from each other, whether or not we wanted a whole like 5 month break from each other. Is we did not want that. We all love each other, but at least I'm away from some stress of living with multiple people.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I remember being a college roommate, and now it builds towards the end of the first year. Like the first half of the first semester, you're brand new, you don't know each other, it's all kind of exciting, and then you're really excited when Christmas comes because you can get away from an annoying roommate. And the same thing happens second semester, but probably faster because you now know them pretty well. And then if you have a roommate that annoys you, then this probably worked out even better. Um, what are you guys going to do with your? You don't get the housing refund. I kind of wonder what students are going to do when they get their housing refund.
Probably
Uh,
spend it this summer on some fun things like ice cream and the beach. Oh, I'm so looking forward to those things.
If we can go to the beach by then.
Oh, don't say that.
You don't know. It's
Okay, so I wanted to know, well, we all wanted to know if anybody has any stories out there they'd like to share with us. We're really looking for some IUP stories, whether it's in quarantine, something funny that's happened to you. We want to hear them. So please reach out to us. Let us know if you guys have anything to say. We'd be happy to hear from you. And I think we're about ready to wrap up.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening, and I hope that you'll listen again.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you all later again on the IUP Survival Guide. Bye-bye.
Bye.